Hello and welcome to Disability Drama. My name's Matt Moss and I'm a little bit slow, but I get there. This is about a 40-year-old man with primary progressive multiple sclerosis. Diagnosed 10 years ago, I was working and walking, and now I'm not. Don't change anything about your routine without talking to a doctor. I am not a doctor, and I do use foul language sometimes, so it's not meant to be offensive, sorry. This one's going to be about wheelchairs. I went and got my wheelchair service today, and it didn't work out so great, and I realized, man, there's a lot that goes on there, and since I'm feeling it today and I'm talking about it and dealing with it anyway, I'll post the video about wheelchairs. Let's see. So back in 2014 is when I ordered my first wheelchair. I ordered it in early 2014. It took about a month and a half to get delivered, a month to get delivered, and I was told that was a relatively quick turnaround from how it worked. I had a pretty long history of physical therapy going into it, which helped. And physical therapy is key when it comes to that. They're going to have you, my insurance did anyway, had me see a physical therapist before I was able to order the wheelchair to make sure what my mobility was and what options I might need and what type of wheelchair. And so went through that, and then the actual day that I ordered, there was a rep from the company. And usually, I shouldn't say usually, in my case or in Arizona's case, there's a rep that handles multiple companies. There's like 2, maybe 3 reps, and they handle all of the different wheelchair companies. And so he sat down, went over the different models and the different makes with me, and I was able to talk to him because prior to this, when I knew it was coming, I had mentioned before, I got a little 3-wheel like rally scooter or whatever, Pride Mobility, the shopping cart things, and I used it for Halloween. Whenever I went to events or something like that, or car shows or whatever, I'd be on that. And when I would see someone out in a wheelchair, I would just ask them. I would approach them and ask them about the ordering process and how they decided what they got and what brand they preferred. And I got a lot of feedback, and I recommend that. People have approached me. I've never been not wanting to talk about the fact that I'm in a wheelchair. Like, I'm totally okay with it. As long as someone's not patronizing to me, I don't mind at all. Kids wander up quite frequently, actually, point out that they like the wheelchair or they think it's neat. And sometimes parents will grab them and be like, don't do that, that's rude. It's not rude, it's totally okay. It's everyone that asks me about my wheelchair learns that I have multiple sclerosis, and that's what put me in the wheelchair. And the more people that know that, the better. So I don't mind spreading knowledge, and that's how I got my knowledge, just talking to different people. And I found out that the top brands that I was informed of anyway were Tylite and Quickie, and I got different opinions depending on what the scenario was. And so if you're quick in and out of the chair and you don't use it much, sometimes the collapsible is better. But if you use the chair for anything, or you're in it frequently, or you're going long distances, a rigid frame, a fixed frame is much better than a collapsible one. It's harder to get in the trunk. Sometimes you gotta figure out. Mine, I would pop the wheels off and put it in the back seat of my car like a person, feet on the ground and back against the back, whatever, and then put the wheels on top of it. And I had quick release wheels. You just push a button right in the middle, they pop right out. But that fixed frame for long distances, without that flex, it helps a lot. There's a lot less energy wasted when you're pushing. There's a lot less energy absorbed by the frame. And then also, if you opt for, you can add power motors to the manual wheelchair as kind of an in-between, which is something that I did. And you can't put that on a collapsible frame, or if you do, it won't work as well, not nearly. So I ended up with a Tylite, and my chair weighed, I believe, 14 pounds, 14 or 15. I was looking very closely at that because I was getting weaker and weaker through my whole body, not just my legs. I just couldn't walk long distances anymore, so I went to the manual wheelchair, and I needed something light that I could take out and put together at the time, and I needed something light because I was pushing it and I didn't have a lot of energy. So they had comparable things from Quickie. I just gravitated toward the Tylite based on the people that I had talked to and their experiences, and I was very happy with that chair. And I added to it It's called the Smart Drive, and that's the little motor that clicked on the axle in the back, and the motor would click on and it was quick release. Like, it would come on and off. You could use it as a manual chair, or you could put that on if you were going long distances. It was very convenient. And then the battery pack slid up underneath the seat. It was flat battery pack. You didn't even know it was there. And then 2 buttons that went right in front of the wheels on the side. And you just tap the button, it killed the motor. So you push the chair and it would start the motors up and start cruising. And there were 3 different speeds. You push a little harder, go faster. Push a little harder, go faster. And then if you click the button on the side of the chair, it would kill the motor, and you could just grab the wheels and stop. And it was real convenient. I also met someone along the way that had put in, their motors were in the hubs. He said it was a German company. I'm not sure. But it worked the same way, but the switch was built into the bar where you grabbed it to stop. So when you could tap the bar or something. It was weird how you controlled it. It was different, but he liked it. He just said that the wheels didn't come on and off, and it made the chair much heavier. So for me, the Smart Drive was a better option because it came right off the chair literally just lifted off, and it went right back to a manual wheelchair with no additional weight on it. So I very much like that in between, but you get fitted for that. And one thing I didn't do is I didn't want any handles in the back because I didn't like the idea of somebody pushing me around. And I wanted to, motivation to keep pushing myself. Hindsight being 2020, I knew my arms were getting weaker, and there were a lot of times that people were helping me and they were holding the back of my chair and they didn't have any handles. So I might put handles on it, and maybe a seat belt if I went back around, because sometimes when I was pushing, I'd get involuntary, like lifting my hips or sliding forward, and I had to fix my position a bunch. So there's a couple things hindsight I would have done maybe a little bit different, but that chair was great to me, and it got me over the hump to my next wheelchair, which was the Rovi X3. And I looked at, there was the Q6 Edge from Prime Mobility, and then there's the Forefront, or there's a front wheel drive one. The front wheel drive one is better for off-road if you do a lot of gravel, or you have a gravel driveway or something like that. The front wheel drive is better because you won't get as much high centering or wheel spin. I went with the center drive, and the reason I went with a Rovi X3 was, at the time, it was the most narrow chassis, and it would get through doors no problem, but also the suspension on it was a notch above the rest, where I could go up one of the rolled curbs and all 6 wheels would stay on the ground the whole time I'd go up the chair. It'd rock back and forth, but all 6 wheels would stay flat on the ground, and that was really convenient for me because I was in and out and traveling quite a bit. My first power wheelchair, I put a lot of miles on it, a lot. I've got 417 miles on this chair since 2018, so that's a little over 2 years. And that one, I put at least 4 times the mileage on it. And it's still in the other room. It still runs. It still works. And it still has good battery life, too. So that's impressive. But the physical therapist was key when I was ordering the power wheelchair, which your insurance company should require anyway. But they're really good at showing you what you're capable of and how you can use the chair to help yourself with movements and stuff like that, and going over the different options because they've been through it with different patients. They often know different options that are available on the chair, and there'll usually be a rep from the company there with that physical therapist going down the checklist and making sure that you get everything you need. The rep from the company wants you to get everything, obviously, because the more they sell, the better it is for them. The physical therapist is a neutral in between where they're not getting anything extra for recommending more options. Maybe the rep will buy them lunch or something, but there's nothing huge to get them to try to talk you into something that you don't need or you don't want. But in my case, physical therapist recommended a couple options that I never would have asked for, which was the tilting option, to tilt forward, anterior tilt, which would help you stand up, and then the foot plate could go flat in the ground so that I didn't have to step off of it or worry about folding it away in order to get my foot down off the edge. And the other option was elevate. I didn't think I would need elevate at all. My chair raises straight up about 21 inches, and I can adjust it so I can belly up to a higher bar top table or a countertop or even a bar. Like I can go, but not only that, in the beginning, I wasn't expecting my arms to go as limp or as numb as they did. And I was having trouble lifting them up into drawers. So for the longest time, I would use that elevate option in the kitchen and everywhere. Like I would open the drawer and flop my arm down into the drawer, and I could maneuver it around inside the drawer and lift it out. But I couldn't lift my elbow or my arm up high enough to get it over the top of a drawer or down onto or up onto a counter. I'd have to reach down onto the counter, elevate the chair, and then go down. It came in handy a lot. And I was hesitant to that option. I was hesitant to all the options because I was like, I don't need those. I'm not going to need those. And it's like, well, it's better to plan or at least make sure the chair is upgradable. Because when I ordered the first chair, there was something, it was identical to my current chair looking, but there was something different about the base to where it didn't have the ability to upgrade for the forward anterior tilt I was talking about. So they didn't put it on my first chair. Okay, so that first chair, I went through all the thing with a physical therapist, and I went through it with the rep, and we decided what I wanted and what I didn't want in the chair that I liked. We went down the order list, made sure it was all right, and then we submitted the order. It got kicked back. This is in, let's say May, beginning of April, May, beginning of going into summer, however you want to say it, spring. So we go ahead and put it in. Maybe I call to check on it every week, every couple weeks, keep getting the run around, and then all of a sudden, a couple months in, I get a call back. It got kicked back because something was filled out wrong or something needed to be worded different by the doctor. So, it's all red tape. So you jump through all the hoops, you change over the paperwork, you write it the way that they need it written, and then it gets resubmitted. And then it got kicked back because of another clerical error or a form that was missing because the company that was submitting it didn't get it right. All right, so it got kicked back again. Then they submitted it again, and it took, I want to say it took them 3 to 4 times submitting the paperwork just to get the approval for the chair before they even started building the chair. Now in this case, they had gone back and forth so many times, they put in an order for a basic chair with no options. I'm not even sure it was the right brand. They ordered the entirely wrong chair the first time around. And I think this one came in end of November, beginning of December was by the time the chair actually showed up. They were like, oh, well, we got the wrong chair. Do you think you'll just take this one? I went, no, there was a lot of options that I needed on the other chair. I can't just take because you ordered it wrong. And so then I had to wait through the whole process of them figuring it out and then resubmitting the order, and then the insurance company going, why are we getting this order again? And then get kicked back twice before that one went through. And then I want to say it was March when I got the chair delivered. It was almost a full 12, it was 10 and a half or 11 months in the process of getting that first power chair. It was crazy. I was extremely lucky that I started that process early because I would have been up the creek if that chair had taken 10 to 12 months when I actually needed it. So I always try to advocate for staying ahead. If you feel it in your body or you've seen a preview of that symptom on a day that you were superheated or whatever, and you think it's possible, it's not wrong to be prepared. You don't have to give up and plan on it like, oh, now I have to go down this path to, I can't move this or I need that in order to do this. And now, my independence, it's like, it's not necessarily going to happen, but it doesn't hurt to be ready. In my case, I've kind of always been able to feel it creeping on me. And, I've said in other videos, because of that, I've been able to plan whenever I overheated, my symptoms exacerbate, and I'd be able to find out, what might be coming next and plan for it. So Staying proactive and ordering ahead helped. And as you can see, 10, 11 months to get that chair delivered. Again, I would have been hosed if I didn't have the right stuff. And I had to add that power motor option to my manual chair before I got my power wheelchair. And I didn't have to. I chose to, and I would have had to bridge the gap anyway. And the manual, the motor I added to it, insurance did not cover it. We ended up having to come out of pocket and had to negotiate with a rep on a demo model because they were changing it or upgrading it to a new model year, and I was able to pick up the old one for less than what they cost retail. But retail on some of this equipment is just insanity. I think retail on that motor was like $4,000 or something, and even negotiating with the rep, it still cost too dang much. And yeah, but insurance did not cover that. And then when I went to the power wheelchair, getting that order in early was key, and listening to the physical therapist who said, get these options or get a chair that's upgradable to these options so that you're ready in the future just in case. And she was smart, because I did end up needing some of those options. And in fact, when I went to go get anterior tilt after waiting almost a year for that first chair, I was a year and a half, I think, into using it, and I went to add the anterior tilt. They went to order the parts, and they realized that my chassis number didn't match up, and that while it looked identical, the chassis was actually different and would not accept the anterior tilt option, which I had told them that I needed in the beginning. So they had to go back and resubmit. I don't even know how they did it, but it took them a lot of time to figure out how they were going to get another wheelchair order, because you're not supposed to get a second wheelchair. Like, it used to be insurance would replace your wheelchair every 5 years, but now they don't even do that. They want to fix whatever's on top of the chassis. And they want to keep fixing parts forever instead of ordering new wheelchairs. So now it's really hard to ever get approved at all for a second wheelchair. And in this case, I was 2 years in, and they had to, because it wasn't upgradable, and I had all the paperwork. It's really important to keep your paperwork on that. I had all the paperwork to show them, like, no, this is an option that I discussed. It was supposed to be on this chair, so it had to be reordered. And so when they reordered it, I got a couple of minor upgrades, and then I've since added a couple things like pads to hold my legs on the side. And I got these pads back here that fold up underneath my arms to keep me from swaying back and forth when I'm in the car. If we turn too fast, I can tip. My core muscles aren't strong enough to hold me up. Or once I tip all the way over, sometimes they're not strong enough to lift me back up, especially in a car that's bouncing up and down. So yeah, the power wheelchair, I swear by the Elevate option. And then this chair, between you put your legs up and then you tilt it back and then you recline it, you're actually inverted to where your feet are much well up above your head. And then I use that. I put my hands back on the armrest and I scoot back up to get back into my chair. Really early on, I think it was the first time I ever got in the chair. The rep was like, I was trying to scoot back and I was struggling. He goes, don't struggle. Use the chair's options to help you. Like, that's what the chair is there for. It's a medical device designed to help you do things. So, he showed me how to tilt the chair back and recline, scoot back in my chair, and then sit back up and get my butt in position. So that helped a lot. Like, once you get the chair and you have the options, figuring out what they're useful for, above and beyond what they're designed for. Like, for instance, my routine every day, I fold the foot plate, pull up to my dresser, and then I use the Elevate option, and it pushes my butt up and straightens, helps to support me while I straighten my legs out and get my weight on my feet. I can still stand, but only still, and I can support my own weight. So I use that Elevate to get me up onto my weight, and then I can back the chair out and swap out what's behind me if I need to change chairs or transfer to something. And the Elevate option works great for that. It's not designed to help you stand up, but it does, and it's awesome. Stuff like that. And then Let's see. The headrest is another thing because the way that I scoop back, the way I just described, all my weight goes back up onto that headrest, and it's real important that I have a different headrest than what's designed to be in there because it has a stronger post and it's reinforced, and so when my weight goes back on, it doesn't bend. But behind me, if you can see, the headrest is bent back, like it's not even in position anymore because I push on it so often it always ends up out of position, and then I have to stuff a pillow in there in order to support my head through the evening. But today I went in to get a controller. Like, they have a collar deal. If you've ever maybe seen the movie The Upside, or not thrilled about it, but Bryan Cranston pretends to be in a wheelchair and he's got this controller that he uses for his chin. That controller, I looked into it, and I went ahead and ordered it. And I ordered that with a few different options, like armrests, and I needed a replacement for my pad behind my legs because it had ripped, and I got a new headrest to put on there. But I got there, and they were like to drop off a chair, and they needed me to be able to leave them my chair. Well, again, thank goodness that I have the second one. It doesn't have all the options, but it's got enough for me to use and in the event, because the loaner chairs do not have the options you'll need. You never know how they've been cleaned. I mean, just stuff like that. So I'm very fortunate to have the other chair to switch to and then bring them this one. I got there and they're just expecting me to leave it. And I went, shouldn't I talk to somebody about what you're doing? I ordered these parts in November with a rep, not even with somebody that worked for the company that supplies. And they were like, oh, it took them a few minutes, and then another rep came out and talked to me. And the people that work there, I gotta say, they're all nice, but they're given a raw deal because the insurance doesn't pay very well, and they've got they're constantly getting things kicked back based on paperwork, and just stupid little things that they don't need to nitpick at the insurance company, but they do to try to deny all these claims. And so they're not given the resources really, and it's not set up by somebody who's disabled. These systems are all set up by able-bodied people who have no idea. And so you go in there, and the people that are there are just there to bolt on the parts, and it's like, well, shouldn't I talk to somebody who knows what I ordered and how it's going to affect me and make sure that we're putting on the right stuff today? Oh, well, I didn't know that, or we didn't expect that, and yes, it should have been done that way. And okay, so I went all the way down there. I switched chairs. I got to load up 2 chairs. I got to ask for a favor to get down there. I get all the way down there, go to drop it off, and they're not really ready for it, so I got to take it back and wait for them to reschedule everything all over again. The people in the shop aren't going to know how you use your chair. Like, the armrests were going to get changed today, but we had discussed it and I wasn't sure. And they were on the list. If I didn't ask, they would have just taken the chair and all that stuff would have been put on. The armrest wouldn't have worked because that's the way I scoop back in the chair. Like I said, I invert, scoop back. Well, I pull the armrest up, and then I use my chin to sit the chair up while I'm inverted. And if you get wider armrests, they don't fold all the way up because they hit the side of the chair. So that wouldn't come up high enough for me to adjust to sit back up. And if they were tucked in the way that he had described them, I wouldn't be able to fold them up either, or I might not be able to grab them if they're in a different position in order to do that. So if something's going to change a major aspect of my daily routine, that's a big deal, and I need to plan for that and figure out how I'll do it different, or I need to not let it happen. And so I needed to stop that from happening. Plus, the headrest needs to have that special reinforced pull, and I wasn't sure if they were going to put the new headrest on the different base, and so I had to make sure of that. And then also that joystick, I need to make sure that it was removable because I don't need it all the time yet, but I do get like real stiff where my body pulls in on itself, and I can't drive my chair out in public if it gets too cold, or if I get nervous, or whatever. And so if I was out and I had that as an option because my arms didn't want to work anymore, I could just turn that on and then not worry about it. At the same time, I don't want to go to that joystick right away, because then I'm not using my arms nearly as much, and the less you use, the harder it'll be to use. So, you always have to plan ahead. You always have to be smart. You always have to stay on your toes. You can't trust that they know what they're doing, because they don't. The way that they have the system set up, you're totally separated when you're doing this from somebody that understands that understands it's confusing sometimes. It's not always easy, but staying ahead of it, having a good physical therapist that understands the equipment and specializes in whatever type of disability you have. Like for me, I have to see a neurological physical therapist. If you go to a regular physical therapy place, it's usually sports driven. There's a physical therapist that's got 5 different patients on 5 different machines and floats around making sure they're doing their exercise with good form. But I can't do. I need someone one-on-one, and then I need someone that can track my progression, know what my movements are. Both physical and occupational therapy track that, and then recommend the proper equipment for me. And if they're not in the field, they're not going to have experience with the equipment. And even if they are in the field, they might not have enough experience or have dealt with enough different patients that have the different equipment to even know what's available. So a good physical therapist is a good start whenever you're thinking, oh man, I might need equipment in order to help me, or I may need to order equipment through insurance. Highly recommend it. And then staying on top of any order. Don't never trust that they're putting the order in correctly. Keep calling back and checking on it once a week or whatever, making sure that that order is being put in properly, that it's been approved, that it hasn't been kicked back, that they're not waiting on a signature or something ridiculous. So, all right, that's a pretty good run at wheelchairs. So hopefully I did pretty good. Feel free to throw in a comment or a question in the bottom. Like, subscribe, notifications, all that stuff helps. The more I can grow the channel, the better. All right. Big ups to Bar School, Big Cat. Thanks to the professor. Porsche dominates, and I'm sorry to Kelly Osbourne, but we're out of time.